The Becoming Flame podcast broadcasts pure, unfiltered power exchange that stokes the flame of your being. Because it's time to remember. It's time to return. It's time to become flame. Hello and welcome to another episode of Becoming Flame. Today's episode is about receiving, not just receiving money, love, support, or success, but receiving life itself, receiving what you say you want, what you desire, beyond what you just need, but receiving you, receiving self, receiving the codes that you are. And then learning what it is to receive beyond money, beyond the currency of give and take, of trade. What are the currencies that we can receive and why are they so important to start exploring? Because it's not a conversation about receiving without overworking, without over-controlling or trying to earn your worth, through exhaustion or beyond exhaustion. It's not that kind of conversation that we're having today, because you can receive that conversation on every podcast and on every social media post from every coach talking about manifestation and law of attraction. Today in this conversation with Elisa Canali, she is a channel, she's a psychic medium. She understands so much about receiving because it was the codes that she herself was innately born with, and she knows how to bring them out in other people. She knows how to sit and emit that so that whoever's in front of her can feel the agitation where they're not receiving, where they're defaulting into struggle, where they're defaulting into childhood conditioning or that trauma that really limits our capacity to want more. So this conversation is not about shifting your mindset. This conversation is not about just knowing your worth, about, setting goals and going out and getting them. This conversation is far, far, far more than mindset. We talk about the currencies women are trying to access, the grief of letting go of what was never truly available to us because it wasn't ours. It's not ours to receive. I think the foundational point that both of us are coming from, but we never really articulate, is that which is ours will always make its way to us. And that which is ours is never going to be taken away. But who we need to be in ourselves to match that which is ours in our destiny, in our true blueprint for a life worth living, for a life that we are here to live, is coming from a place of letting go of the falseness of us, stepping into the truth of who we be, understanding what we want, understanding what we desire, because our desires are linked to our blueprint, and then stepping forth into claiming that. But what happens is that we've been taught what to want. We've been taught what to go after. And it's from outside. It's from external sources. This episode is for the woman who is tired of forcing, tired of performing, and really ready to let go of all of those stories and understand what it would mean to become available for more from a place of truth. It would ask of us to be who we came here to be, and understand that in that place there are no blocks. In that place there are no wounds, no issues, nothing to heal and nothing to become worthy of. You simply become who you be in the fullness of the expression of you, and you receive who you are, and you receive all that is coming to you from outside of you. And we explore all the ways in which that can happen. And to have this conversation with me today, our guest is Elisa Canali. Elisa is a feminine leadership mentor and business coach whose work really centers on receiving, on human design, on feminine leadership, on accepting success, not just as a concept, but as a woman's lived capacity to hold more love, more wealth, more support, more success, and more of her own truth. What makes Elisa's perspective so compelling is that she speaks about receiving as something far deeper than mindset. For her, it touches identity, nervous system, safety, self-worth, yes, trauma, and the patterns that women inherit from family culture and conditioning. But beyond that, what is it at the truth of you, what can you receive? So I think that Elisa brings a very powerful lens to what it means to stop forcing, to stop proving, and to start becoming available for more. She shares openly about her own experience and the ways receiving can look different for every woman, and how she's so understanding to culture and to difference in makeup and family background and all of that. But at the same time, knowing where there's a place for stories and where there isn't. So I think her work is really about seeing the deeper source of what has shaped us, but also seeing the higher forces of what could. So absolutely excited for this conversation. You will get so much out of it. Let us welcome Elisa to Becoming Flame. This episode of Becoming Flame is brought to you by Phoenix. Phoenix is a ritual luxury house devoted to erotic feminine embodiment. We create alchemical intimacy oils and functional fragrances infused with spagyric botanicals designed to soften the nervous system, open the body, and awaken life force vitality. Our formulations are crafted as tools of self-initiation. They are not cosmetic. They are not decorative. They are designed to be felt. They are designed to shift. Each oil facilitates a cellular shift into relaxation and receptivity, activating and opening up an archetypal femininity that your body knows and is yearning to step into. These oils allow the body to open safely into sensual intelligence, magnetism, and creative power. They open libido and open creative sexual energy. When the body is safe, it softens. When it softens, it receives. When it receives, it creates. And when it creates, the entire world shifts. We believe that women who sit deeply in their bodies, in their erotic intelligence and sovereignty, become powerful creators of their lives and the environments around them. Our products are initiations into that coherence, luxury in experience, devotional in use, transformational in effect. Get yours now at phenix.com. That's PHENXX.com. Welcome to the podcast, Elisa.
Thank you.
So exciting to have you here. Before we connected, I also sent you my human design because I know that you're into that. So you probably know a lot about me, I think, maybe. The listeners obviously know a little bit less about you, but I don't want to do like this traditional tell us about yourself kind of thing. What I would love to know is why you want to work with women to become amazing receivers. Why is that? Out of everything you could do in the world, why was that the thing you chose?
Well, first of all, because I think is my gift. Like I've always been since I was young, like an incredible receiver. Like
Really?
yes,
I want to know so much about that. Okay.
I never had this feeling that a lot of women have, like I can receive gift or I can receive help or I can ask for this or the other. My mom always joked that I probably was a queen in another life because I've always picked like the most expensive thing, and I've always said that a taste for luxury things. And, since I was young, I always felt like I just deserve this, it's natural.
So you never needed to work on your self-worth, on your self-esteem, on like opening to receive, like these things have not been issues for you.
Yes. So I had to work, of course, on my self-worth, but in other aspects, more so in the aspect of, being able to set boundaries, for example, or being able to say no, or being able to not overgive to people. But on the opposite side, like I never had issues to receive love or receive money or receive appreciation.
Okay, so I'm really curious, like how many currencies do you operate within? What are the main currencies that you are receiving? Like you said, love, appreciation, money. But like, if you are so that you are one of these very rare women that are just like, yeah, just give it to me. I'm open. I'm taking it. I'm so interested now. Like, what are the currencies that you know of? What are the differences? Is there any different way of receiving those different things? Or is it all the same? Like, break this down for us. This is like, you're an oracle.
So for me, there are many currencies in receiving, there is love, there is support, there is beauty. There is money, of course, these words of appreciation, a lot of different currencies. And, some women maybe have opened up the path to receive love, but they haven't opened up the path to receive money, or vice versa. So it's not just one thing, it's multiple aspects we have to work with that comes from, the specific wound that we have developed growing up, and the specific like conditioning that we have grown up with, and every one of us has a different blueprint for that. So what I do is really looking at the ecosystem of your receiving blueprint, and then looking at, okay, where are the cracks? Where do we have to change and alchemize? For me, I would say probably the biggest one was the only one probably has been like receiving my success, like being able to appreciate my achievements without needing actually to receive the confirmation from someone else. So there
Okay.
is receiving from other, and then there is receiving from yourself,
Okay.
which for me are two different elements.
Right.
Does it make sense?
And receiving from others is easier for you than receiving from yourself. Fascinating. Okay. Keep talking. I'm learning so much.
So, for example, let's say, I know a lot of women, my clients or friends who go to the restaurant, and, the meal is not what, how they like it cooked, or the wine. I have no problem telling the waitress, no, I don't like this. Like, you have to cook it better, or the wine is not what I like, because I'm just aware that I am at the restaurant and I'm there to receive the best. While so many of us compromise our desires, especially women, because we want to be good girl. We want to people please. We want to, not bother anyone.
Yeah. So, why is it easier for you to receive from other people over yourself?
So for me, it's been easier to receive from myself, for myself. For example, I have no problem buying myself things, or going to the spa alone, or, booking a massage. I don't have any issue. For me, it's been more an internal receiving of, since I am, a high achiever and perfectionist, and I have, ADHD, it's always been hard for me to see myself.
Mm,
And if we cannot see ourselves clearly, we cannot receive from inside of ourselves.
yeah.
So it's different, self-sourced receiving, which is ultimately what we all want, than an outside receiving from outside. Does it make sense?
It makes sense. And so for you, is it because you had real safety and real connection and real love from your parents and your immediate family? Really? Now I'm even more fascinated because the only women that I've ever met that are really good at receiving is that they have amazing parents that are just like, they showered them with love and the kid was like, yes, I love it all and I see it all. So now I'm even more fascinated about your story about receiving.
I think, I believe, since I'm very into, as you know, human design and jinkies and spirituality, I believe that we are all coming into the world with the specific codes,
Yeah.
with specific gifts. And that's what I came into the world with. Even if my parents were like, I grew up in very traumatic family. I have a lot of trauma. My parents were, not the kind of that you described at all, the opposite. So I think, for me, a knowing since I was young that I was meant to receive, that I could ask for the things I wanted and I deserve them.
So I feel like what I'm understanding from this is like if you had a really amazing talent for mathematics, whether your parents treated you really well or really unwell, your talent for mathematics would have already been like, okay, maybe you didn't go to school or things like that may have, impacted. But if you had a true rare gift for like genius level mathematics, it doesn't matter if you didn't go to school, you're self taught, you're finding ways, you're seeking that out.
Yes.
Okay. So you are born with a gift to receive from others, irrespective of the trauma that you grew up with. That is fascinating. That is very unique. Has that been a unique situation for you in the work that you're doing as well? Women are like very often confused and interested by this, or this is why they're coming to you?
Well, yes, a lot of women come to me, especially because they have problem in receiving more. Like in general, like when I talk about money and receivership is about your relationship with more, like more visibility, more love, more money, more clients, more success. It's always this relationship with more. And so when we opened up ourselves to feel safe into more, because ultimately all these things like money, clients, visibility, success are sensations. So we have to work with the body to feel safe in the sensation of more, of overflow, of limitlessness, possibility.
And so, does it matter what somebody's trying to receive, or does it just matter about that sensation finding home and safety within your body?
Yes.
The second.
The second, for sure, also depends again because I I I have a lot of clients who come from like different cultures. So for depending of I have clients coming from Korea, from Russia. So it's also very much depending on the culture you grew up in, not only just your family, but the environment where you grew up in, and the morphogenetic field that imprinted your body and your DNA and your subconscious. So, for example, women that I work with that come from a culture like Korea, where there was no like so much like affection and touching and hugging, that's something they struggle a lot with. But then we also see how this is connected with money, how this is connected with clients, because at the end, everything is connected.
So that was going to lead into my next question, actually, was my understanding and the way that I see and experience energy is that it all sort of does come from this one universal source. There are factions, and that's more the prism of the receivers or the viewers or the players' minds, right? Is that they faction out this energy into what they now name as love, money, confidence, et cetera, et cetera. But when I experience energy in general, it's a singular form, it's a singular source, and it comes through to us. So is it more that our beliefs and our mind's story creates that because I'm from this culture, I have this thing to overcome, or I can find a man but I can't find a job, or I could, whatever it may be. Like is it about working with each of those individual things that we're trying to receive, or is it about elevating ourselves up into that more universal, galactic, cosmic, oneness of energy?
Yeah.
Like, or is it about moving between them?
Yeah. So it depends, and that's like a very interesting conversation. It depends from the level of consciousness from which we
Yeah.
operate.
Okay.
So there are women, or, humans who operate a lot at the 3D level of consciousness. So the 3D level of consciousness is a more common one where we see reality and where we believe this is a laptop, this is a chair. And in order for me and for my clients to do the change, I cannot move immediately them into a 5D or 7D level of consciousness, because their mind and their human is gonna, freak out, and we have a glitch in the system. So we
Don't you
need to
want a
go.
glitch in the system? Don't you wanna be glitching? Like, if there's something that's wrong with you in terms of, like, I'm not accepting everything, don't you wanna glitch on that so you get up to a higher level, or you wanna go really slowly and, like, pace it out?
You want to, because we are both the consciousness and a body. Like, we choose to come into this earth, to experience earth, to experience duality, to experience the body, to experience sensation. So we cannot bypass that, and go immediately up here, because it can work for a while, but then we drop back. If we haven't done the work first year, we cannot live here, because it's too much for our system. And that's where a lot of women like do the quantum leap, and then they crash, because they haven't been stabilized at the level of the body, the nervous system, the cellular. They haven't stabilized where they want to be. So it's always a game of moving between different level of consciousness.
Yeah, it makes sense. And your nervous system needs to hold it, your body needs to hold it. You need to believe that it's safe. And that's the difference between experiencing and receiving, I would
Right.
say. Okay. So I understand you're moving from a lower to a higher, and you're doing that in titration so that everybody can hold that, experience that. You're moving through one sensation after the other, making that safe, making that home within the body. So for your advanced students, for yourself, for example, when you come across something that becomes to be quite nuanced, maybe like you've already said that you're quite good at receiving quite a lot of different aspects and quite a lot of different currencies. You move in the nuance of all of that, in the delicacy of all of that. When you discover something new that you're like, that's weird, it feels like I'm not open to that. Maybe it's something that you didn't even really know, and then it comes into your consciousness, it comes into your awareness. You're like, that's a new thing. Maybe you even have an example coming to mind. What's your process for really going, okay, well, how do I bring more of that into my life without obviously disrupting what you've built, not disrupting the safety of that? You don't want to go too quickly, bringing something that you're not maybe never even known about because it's a new subtle thing.
For me, something that has always been, I would say, a challenge is has been like receiving, like fully receiving my achievements and my milestones and my success. Like, it was okay, easy, done, next. Like, I never allowed myself, until now, until last year, and then I wrote the book about it. I never allowed myself to sit into the milestone, into the achievement, into the success. It was always like more, 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 and more money, more clients, more success. And then all this search for more, for, the next thing, it was toxic, and I realized that it was simply a programming I had, mental, emotional programming, because I was never praised in my
Mm.
family for my achievement, you know? And still now, like when I told my mom, my book is out on Amazon. "Oh, okay, good. So
What do you want? What do you want? Good for you.
good for you.
So stop speaking so much about yourself.
And so for me, work has been really learning to slow down and appreciate and savor and stay and feel, rather than running to the next thing, because at the end of the day, like, even the next thing then became irrelevant, so it doesn't matter how much you reach or how much you achieve, if you cannot stay present with what it is now.
So what did that look like for you? What was the shift? How did you start to celebrate your own, take the example of your book? Congratulations, by the way. Even if your mother doesn't say it, I will.
Thank you. I have to be honest, like it's still a work in progress, of course. But for me, last year at the beginning of 2025, I start feeling like completely not burnout, but numb to my success. Like nothing motivated me anymore. It was like whatever, yeah, the business, the money, the clients, the retreats, like I couldn't feel any appreciation, any love for what I was building. And I had to stop. I had to take 3 months completely off work, off the business. I turned off my phone for 3 months. I didn't take any client. The business was still running because I had my team running it, but I was not running anything or talking on social media, nothing. And I had to really sit with that void, with that discomfort of, okay, I ran all my life to build my success, to be the best, to have this, to have the other, but like I've never really celebrated it. I have never really allowed myself to sit in it and like look at myself in the mirror and say, wow, like I'm so proud of you. I'm so, grateful for what you have done. Like part of my ADHD brain and also why I'm very good at business and achieving is because I've lived in a situation of drama in my life and chaos. So I had to be really smart to always problem solve and to always fix and to always improve and to always, And so my internal operating system was set on, oh, okay, you did this, good. It 100 came out good, but could you have done better? What could you improve? How can you make more? What did you do wrong? Like for me, it's always looking at what did I do wrong rather than what did I do good,
Also, when you're just managing external chaos and drama all the time, there's no reward in doing that. It's just work. And so all you got out of navigating chaos is this tiny moment of like a completion before the next chaos starts.
Yes.
And so you're in this constant, like, it never ends. You don't get any, like, it's like the idea of cleaning up your house every day just for somebody else to come in and mess it up every single day. And so you're just in this constant, like, why would I celebrate cleaning a house that is going to be messy yet again
Yes.
tomorrow? And so I can really recognize what you're saying deep within me. Like the codes in me are like buzzing right now going, yeah, that's why you don't celebrate anything that you ever get done. Because first of all, no one's coming around with a pile of balloons and a cake for you. But secondly, you're so in the habit of cleaning chaos you didn't cause that it doesn't feel like anyone should celebrate that.
Yes.
I think that's for anyone listening, because so many women who are high achieving have those skills because they grew up in that environment.
Yes, 100%.
There's no way of like, and then the other thing is when you reach a level of consciousness or awareness about yourself, to celebrate your high achievement doesn't even feel good either, because you're like, this is a trauma response. Capitalism benefits from the chaos that I grew up in.
Yes.
Not me.
Not me. Not me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it can therefore make it really hard on two levels. One is, well, the success of achievement is still outside of me. So do I really so what is the internal state of my being right now? If it's not natural excitement, is that a support mechanism for survival and for safety? Or is it because this is yet again managing chaos that has no internal reward?
Yeah.
I think that can be a deep reflection point, right?
Yes. Me realizing that exactly what you said, like everything in my life came from managing chaos and trying to survive in the chaos and like shape shifting and doing this and doing the other, because it was the only way for me to feel some sort of love from my mother, because she was always Like I am the last of three and I was like an unwanted child pregnancy. So she's like, thank God that I kept you because you are the best child. Don't do bad things to like your brothers. So for me, it's always been the only way to be loved from my mother was either be like quiet and perfect and achieve or sick. Because when I was sick, at least she was kind of, I realized that everything I built was in response to that trauma. So I had to really rewrite my relationship with the achievement and with success and asking myself, for who am I doing this?
Mm.
What's the point? Am I doing this for myself? For my mother, that anyway, she doesn't even celebrate me? For my husband? And so now I am in a much more slow nervous system, calm, where it doesn't really matter, to reach a milestone. If to reach that, I had to sacrifice myself or my well being or my time or my health. Or my mental health. Like, no.
So much in what you're saying. I think I think it's fascinating for me because I have a very different way of receiving than you, which is normal. We're all different. But when I receive, it's like it's because I'm in this recognition of I am an infinite being and all that I deserve and desire is coming to me. The floodgates can open and my life can go from this to that in a very short period of time. And it's almost like I decide I would like to experience these kinds of things, and then I shift into that. What was funny about what you're talking about, though, is the reminder to myself of how much I have done in my life to receive this nebulous, unattainable love, acknowledgement, approval, not just of my parents, but of almost like this very unapproving inner circle.
Mm,
And it's a very depletive thing because you do get to a certain point in life and go, I have actually stopped activity towards a goal that I personally really wanted because I knew it wouldn't get their approval or
mm,
I wouldn't feel safe to say this is what I'm doing or all of this. And so for example, when I started this podcast, I've told no one that
mm.
I can physically see in the flesh to me. I've told digital people, I've told you obviously, and you found me, but it was the way for me to realize, like, if I was to start doing the things that I wanted to do for myself, and whether nobody listens or whether however many people listen, it's irrelevant to my reasons for doing it. And interestingly, I think I've been far better at receiving from myself than from other people. So quite the opposite to you. And partly the reason for that is there were just too many strings attached to anything. So it's like I had to even understand, like, am I a bad receiver? Or I just don't want to receive at the cost
Yeah.
to this receiving. And I think that can be I don't know if you have advice for women going through that kind of thing where the cost of receiving is just too high that it's just really not worth it. Because I think partly, obviously, the answer to that is like we have to shift our beliefs and mindset and the story around that because there's infinite more possibilities of receiving than just from the handful of people that probably don't want the best for us,
Yeah.
unfortunate as that is to say. But fortunately, there are infinite possibilities to receive. And I think it's like it's knowing how to get that belief shift so
Mm-hmm.
that it's like I don't have to stop receiving full stop. I just have to stop receiving from people that actually are not giving freely.
Yes. And that has also been my experience. Of course, when I was a child, I could only receive from my parents because I didn't have like independence. But for example, one thing that I always did was being aware that in my family, there was no possibility to receive.
Mm,
So I spent a lot of time with my grandmother
mm,
because for me, is being more like a mother.
mm.
because my grandmother was also, the mom of my mother was also terrible at giving to their children, but good at giving to her grandchildren, you know?
Right.
So I spent a lot of days and hours and months with her, and like receiving her, she was super intelligent, receiving like her wisdom, her story, her love, her help, because she was so good at many things, and she still remember like Latin and Greek. So I was going to her home, and we were studying Greek and Latin together. And so when I started there, and then immediately, as soon as I could work, I started working to be able to not need money from my family, because the money were strange attached with other stuff. I got a boyfriend when I was 15, who was a billionaire. So I was basically living with him, and like going on, holidays and in boats with, butlers. So for me, I'm like, okay, I can't receive here in my family, which is fucked up. So I'm gonna find other avenue to do it. And I think it's where so many women get, and also men, like in general, get stuck, is like, no, but I really want to get this ear from my family who cannot give it to me. So I keep like trying to get
Right.
from that source, when actually it's like, no, you just have to give up on that. You just have to stop fighting with that, and
Yeah.
source it somewhere else.
Mm. Do you have advice around that?
Well, for sure, is working with, I don't want to use this word, but almost like I had to get to a point when I was, I think, 15, to give up the fact that my mother was going to be a mother.
Mhm.
Like, because all my adolescence and my life, I fought to get from her what I needed, but she couldn't. She can't. So I had to make peace and give up trying to get it from her. And it's a grief. It's a grief process, because you're like, but she's my mom or is my dad. But when we reach a point, and of course I reach it through therapy and all the things like healing, we reach a point where we just have to realize, like, here is not possible. And
Mm.
just, I think a big step is acceptance and forgiveness. Because until we don't accept, we can't forgive. And we cannot fail to forgive if we haven't accepted that this human, this husband, this mother is incapable of giving what we need.
So as you pull your energy or your desire from what you need from this person, and you can eventually take that. I think the hesitation for people to pull their desires out of someone, or their avenues for receivership out of someone, is the first question is like, so where? So where do I put this? So what do I do now? Like, and that feeling of isolation or aloneness, what's that next thing? So you give up on it not coming from there, but then what?
Then you stay with the grief. And people don't want to stay. That's the problem of our world. Like, we don't want to stay in. We want to stay out. We don't want to stay in the uncomfortable, the pain, the suffering. Like, we find every fucking avenue to escape. But the only way out is through.
And
And
you
so
stay there until it stops hurting,
you
until
stay
it
there
alchemizes.
until you are able to alchemize it and source the lesson from it. Because I see so many women and my clients like go into a relationship with, let's say, a narcissistic partner, and then they like stop the relationship, and then they jump in another relationship that is pretty much the same. And then again, because they haven't actually stayed with, I was with a narcissist and it created these wounds and all these things. And why did I choose this relationship? No, they jump into the next thinking that the other partner, the other person is going to solve the problem, but it's not.
There's a way to stay correctly, though. without looping in the, why did I do this? Why are they doing this? Why does nobody blah, blah, blah? Okay. So in staying in the grief, it's not just being stuck there,
No.
right? It's an active process. Do you want to give some more context to that so you're
For
understood?
example, when I opened this business in 2018, and before that, I had like well, I work. It's a long story, but I worked a lot of a year in corporate, and then I opened with a couple of partners a recruitment firm, and then one of my clients of the recruitment firm hired me in the company. So that I stayed in the company a month, and then I quit. And so I found myself completely lost. Who am I? What am I supposed to do? What's my passion? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to go back to corporate? Do I want to do HR? Do I want to do marketing? What do you know? And instead of jumping immediately to something else, I stayed 6 months in that void, in that not knowing, in that uncomfortable, in that grief, in that crying. And, it's messy. It's not perfect. It's not beautiful. It's not, but I needed to really spend time with myself without listening to anyone else, because I've always been like, oh, you should do this, or you should do the other. And really finding, okay, what Elisa wants to do. And so, of course, when you stay in that process, I had a coach, I had the therapist, I was doing all the healing, I was, tapping. I took my certification in EFT tapping. I did things to, it's not that sat there all day crying. I did things to discover more of myself. So all of those lessons or setbacks or problems ultimately are just things that our soul, I believe, our soul choose to learn, to get wiser.
Yeah.
We can either see it from a victim consciousness, like, why this is happening to me? Oh my God. Because I could have gone into terrible victim consciousness, because of course I had a successful recruitment firm. I gave it up to go to work in corporate, and I stayed a month, and and instead I said, like, I am the one who can change this. And I'm also the one who created this,
Hmm.
not someone else. So is self-responsibility without self-blame, which is very different. Is alchemizing shame, is alchemizing guilt, because especially like in this situation, those are the two most common emotion coming up. Shame because I was stupid, I was wrong. Why did I did this? And guilt because I lost another opportunity. I lost another 2 years with this partner, and blah 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 blah, all these stories. So we need to look at the shame and the guilt, and work on that and alchemize that, and also work on really extracting the lesson, the wisdom that we can from that situation, because we will keep bumping into the same things, and bigger and bigger and bigger, the more we avoid to look at truth.
And that's the thing, right? When you're in your victim mindset, is a very low vibration. It doesn't hold creativity. It actually holds you into your slavery, entanglements. And it's hard to see a future. It's
Yeah.
even hard to see a solution. And then you're organizing chaos again. And so you're in this realm and this loop of chaos. And I think every time I find myself in chaos, for me, it's this external cue of, you are currently in the realm of victim chaotic drama. This is not where you live. This is not the place where you change your lives. Like, you've got to put down the mop and the broom and walk out of that house,
Yeah.
leave the mess as it is, and quit that job, liberate yourself and just sort of start to say, if the victim is going to continue to sabotage me and my life and my ideas and my creativity, I have to fire that person from this job, or I have to understand, what is it giving me? What is it giving me there in that moment? What is this victim? What have I employed it to do? And how do I get that elsewhere? And that's kind of the same idea as what you were talking about with your mother. I'm wanting this from my mother so badly that I've employed her to give me something, but not what I think, what I deeply want. What she's giving me is something that's very different from what I'm yearning for. I want her to give me what I'm yearning for, but she cannot. She's not employed to do that. There's no contract. There's no skill set. There's no capability. So I need to go and find this thing that I'm yearning for from wherever it is. And I see the archetypes in a similar way, where it's like, the victim is giving me one thing that it's employed to do, that it has a skill set to do, that it's only ever going to give me. It's never going to change. That is what its job is. It's singular and it's, one dimensional in every possible way. But to try to get something else from a victim that's not victimhood is ludicrous. It's so
Yeah.
stupid. You're never going. And so I think that if you can see sometimes these characters in your own life as these archetypal references of these one-dimensional, this is what I get from you, this is the relationship, you distill it all down to this very linear, very basic, almost like a word. And that's what you're going to get from that person. That's when you want that thing, you call that person. And if you start to track this, when you're in whatever mood you're in or whatever craving that you're in, you're going to make a call for that particular person. And if you can start to even change it in your phone. So if it's like sympathy, and you have to call somebody whose name in your phone is sympathy, you get a moment in that split second before you press dial to say, is that truly what I want? Like
Yes.
in your case, you wouldn't get sympathy from your mother, but like you would work out, what is that? What is that you're getting from that relationship? And every time you make that call, it's like, do you want that? That will be one of the fastest ways that you could change the relationships that you have and then the phone calls that you make.
Yes.
Because then that's going to change your relationship with receiving more than anything else. It's like, if I keep calling sympathy, but I want empowerment, why am I calling sympathy? That doesn't make sense. That's not getting me where I want to get to.
100%.
It's like, I'm actually thinking I should probably go through my phone and do that now. I don't think
Yeah,
it's a bad idea.
that's such a great idea.
So, okay, I want to come back to this receiving idea because I think it's so unique. Okay, so sort of going on from this chaos and this victimhood, this sabotage, we're not getting what we want, we're not getting our needs met. We shift out, we bring our energy out of that person, we sit in the discomfort and we learn to alchemize. We learn to alchemize those discomforting, uncomfortable feelings into our power, into ourselves. That's going to bring us into a different landscape in our mind, in our bodies. It's going to start to look different, but we're not finished yet. That all we've done is stop receiving something that we were never receiving. So what's that next step to actually start getting what we want?
Then, is getting really honest, as you were saying, your needs. Because so many times I ask my clients, do you believe you can have what you want? And they're like, yes. And then I'm like, okay, what it is that you want? I'm not sure. Maybe more clients. Yeah, but what does it mean? Like, how does it feel like? So we need to get really clear on what are our needs, not not the needs we think we need to have or what they told us we need to have. It's like, what do you, Elisa, or what do you really need and desire? Because making the example of the business, like there is online all these, like, I need to get to K months or whatever, achievement to prove something. And I'm like, but do you really need that, desire that? Or you just say you want that because everyone say that? Do you really desire a 7-figure business or you just have the idea that would be fun? because so many times we go after certain things that we want to have and receive, but they are not truly our desires. So we need to start then in that void to separate between what it is that is you, the real you, and what is conditioning. Because especially again, if we look from the lens of human design, like where we have open centers that are the white, if you have your chart is where you are white, where there is no color, those are the places where we experience lack, ego, and fear and conditioning. So we have to look at from your conditioning inside of your open centers, what is truth and what is something that you have been told to, that you have been instructed to, that is not your real essence, you know?
Yeah.
So 90% of the time we find that it was not the truth,
Mm.
you know? Like it was not the truth that you really wanted to speak on stage. It was something that you think was cool because your mother or this or that, or you be there, you know? So for me, my work, that's why a lot of the time, like the clients who work with me at the beginning have a big crumbling, we could say, because one of my gifts with my, incarnation cross and my 23 jinky, it's really breaking the illusion and like only being left with the essence. Because this idea of the 23 jinkies is quintessence. In front of my energy, people can fake or hide, which is confronting. But we can build a fulfilling, prosperous, wealthy life only from truth and honesty and your true essence. And that comes through removing, like, imagine that you have layers and layers of clothes that you have wore for all your life. And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, I'm so hot, and you have to start taking them out and realizing, oh, actually it's summer and I was supposed to be dressed just with a dress, but I'm wearing a coat and a fur, and and then again we have to go through, what people in the more spiritual side of the world talk about, death and rebirth. I talk more, in human language is grief. We have to go through a grief process of letting die what we believed was our identity,
Yeah.
which is extremely uncomfortable.
And it doesn't get easier, but it gets more familiar, which makes it more comfortable. Because when you start to understand that discomfort is actually unfamiliarity, and that once you become more familiar with something, you can become more comfortable with it because you know what's going to happen, it starts to get easier to shed these identities that are really coming from so many other people other than yourself.
Yes.
The challenge then, I guess, for a lot of people is that they keep doing this shed. Well, there's two things. First, I'll back up and I say the first challenge is you think you go through one identity death and now
Exactly.
you found yourself.
And now you have arrived. No, you haven't.
So that can be a really big challenge. This is like these kinds of people that go on a weekend retreat and they come back and they tell you that they found, enlightenment. Good for you. I'm so glad that the retreat was worthwhile. Good luck with the next 20 years of doing the same thing every weekend. So the first time I think is almost harder than the, 200th, obviously, because there's an illusion at the beginning that it's done.
Yeah.
That you cracked open. It's like, no, you scratched the surface. You loosened a button, okay? On your metaphor about the coats and the layers of clothing. It's like you took over in your top button and now you're saying, I'm enlightened, I have arrived. I think once you start to understand how to integrate identity collapse and the shedding of false narratives that were fed to you, that fed a belief system that about this is who you are, and you do that from, a personal level, from a societal level, from a familial level, from sometimes even galactic level, whatever level you're at and operating at, you've got a lot of stuff And it reminds me of this thing that Michelangelo said when he was carving David, and somebody said, how do you know what you're carving? And he said, all I do is remove that which is not David. And I'm going to do that until he tells me this is him. And I think if we can approach it with that same like methodology, it's not like it doesn't have to be a revelation every time. It doesn't have to be, in the beginning, I used to keep a journal and I filled something like 10 journals. And I was like,
Wow.
one day I'm going to write a book about this. Everyone's going to want to know about all of these identities that I shed. And what happens is over the years that you do it, you throw those journals out because they're not relevant to
And in
anyone at all. And so in the beginning, it's very interesting. You discover all these past lives and you think you're Cleopatra and good for you. Great. Write your fantasy book about it. That's great. But if you keep going with it, you'll realize the true story is who you actually are, not all these false realities and false stories and past lives and alternate realities that you could have been living, and not the ayahuasca retreat that you
yeah.
did and the what she said to you or didn't say to you. And it's like the miracle of you gets revealed every time you say, this is not me, and you get closer and closer. But I don't necessarily think that makes you an infinitely good receiver just in that. I think actually what can happen is you get really good at letting go. You get
Mhm.
really good at pushing everything out. And I'm curious for you, as someone who's naturally coded into receiving everything in, what's that next level? Like you got to this point where you're like, I think I think I have calmness. I think I have me. I think this is the truth. I'm not getting ruffled. I'm not out of my body. There's a sense of calmness here. I don't feel urgency. I'm not being, it's all, there's peace here. I can do a lot with a little. I can do a little with a lot. I find my equilibrium. So how do those women who have arrived there now start bringing it in?
Because when you have done this work, then you have made space for the universe, for whatever we believe in, God, the universe, source, Buddha, Allah, to bring more to you of what you truly desire. Because if there is no, like, from a human design, again, perspective and a quantum physics perspective, we are always in a state of attraction. Like when people talk about manifestation, it's not that we are manifesting, we are simply attracting in our reality what is in alignment with our vibrational frequency and with our consciousness and with our G center in human design, that is basically our sense of self, our how much we love ourselves, how much we see ourselves, how much we are in connection with God, how much we are in connection with our mission. So it's not that we magically create something outside of us or we magically receive something. Depending on the vibrational frequency where we are at and where we operate, we attract either lessons or blessings. And receiving is simply attraction, is simply being in a state of high vibrational attraction where you attract more of your miracles and your blessings and your desire rather than lessons. What I want people to understand is that you, even if you think you are not a great receiver, you are always receiving.
Yeah. So what are you receiving?
Exactly. The question is not how do I become a better receiver. The question is what am I vibrating to and how to receive what I'm currently experiencing in my external reality. Because if we look at quantum physics, every reality, every timeline happens at the same time. So the timeline where you are receiving $1 million and, the love of your life and the book deal with the reality where you are struggling to pay your bills, they coexist at the same time. The point is, are we attracting this reality into our ID or are we attracting this other reality? So the thing is never changing the outside. I cannot change my husband because I want to receive more sex or I want to receive more flowers. What I have to change is how do I vibrate? And then is he, when I change my vibrational level, is he able to meet me here or not? Does it make sense?
Of course. And so I think there's still, obviously, there's still millions of women on the planet today that despite them showing up to do their work, and I think that women are doing that in vast numbers. They, at various degrees of commitment and, consciousness. Of course, everybody's doing it. Everybody's on their own path and on their own points. But we still have millions of women who are not millionaires, who are not billionaires, who are not even able to get out of their financial scarcity. So at the same time that it's like, it's not about consciousness and doing the work and shedding the identities and the falseness. There must be in your eager observations of the space, because it's the work that you do, it must have a hypothesis as to why. If a woman is really willing to work on herself, but still living in financial scarcity, and not even just financial scarcity in terms of money, but like not receiving all of the currencies that you yourself naturally are receiving. Even the most simple example for me is the degradation of women's fashion into just wearing absolute,
Yes.
like to wake up in the morning and just look so terrible just doesn't elevate you into a place of like wanting to be beautiful that day or adorn yourself or take a moment to actually apply your hands to your skin, look in the mirror, like like
Yeah.
even just brush your hair, So there's a lot of currencies that are not being received, not just money. And I'm curious,
I guess money.
why do you think that is? What is your deeper analysis here?
So I don't have like one answer, like a single one. There are, many answer I could give you. The more like out there that when I tell my clients, they're like, what? Or the more practical, the more out there is like, I came to a point, I'm a channel where I've realized that we have all, especially women, being fed lies to keep us out of our power and to keep us enslaved to a system that profit from everything you are describing.
Yes.
From the spiritual system to the capitalistic system to the beauty system to the fashion industry, because I worked a lot of years in fashion. They all have capitalized on the illusion that we are not enough and that we are not worthy. So we spend thousands of dollars and years trying to become enough or worthy. But we have to realize that those are also false identity.
Mm.
Those are false reality. Those are false belief. Like, you don't have to become worthy. You already fucking are.
Mm.
You don't have to be enough. Like, so many of my clients, like, I need to be enough, like good enough, smart enough, perfect enough, in order to make more money. No, like, this is an illusion. And
You
you
be, and therefore you are.
go online on Instagram and everything you fucking see. Sorry, I'm getting really
I love it. Keep going.
everything I fucking see is coaches and spiritual people who should be on another vibration who keep shaming women for not being enough, for not being worthy, trying to sell them their offer. It's all a fucking spiral that keeps us enslaved.
Yes.
And so my job, what I love, is actually beyond money, beyond anything else, is liberating women from all these false illusions.
Mm.
Because we could spend an entire lifetime try to become worthy. Worthy of what? Worthy of who? Who told you you have to be worthy? Of what? Like, you have to be whole, not worthy. You have to be, because what does it mean? I am not enough. Enough versus what? So to my more advanced client, I do this kind of, challenge confronting them. It's very challenging to accept.
Part of the reason why I asked you about the currencies that you yourself understand and operate within, trade amongst yourself, is that I think that particularly under the scenario that there's this external financial system that may or may not exist, that may or may not continue, that may or may not be blocking people out. We see a lot of trends. We're not going to divulge the conversation into those. They're not conspiracies, they're happening.
Yes.
If your worth, so to speak, like if your entire mentality became, I am worthy because of my net worth, and that whole like your self worth is your net worth is your self worth, like ridiculous concepts of this, like how, reductive. But then what happens under the scenario that your net worth is now frozen? Does your life stop? Do you cease to exist? Do you cease to have worth? Do you cease to have value? And I think if more women can start to understand, not only is the money and trade system built on a very input output, male masculine role, it's also built on the same kind of creation pathway that male contribution has in birth, right? Like you make an
Yes.
injection and that's it. Like there's an exchange, like the exchange is very linear, one dimensional, bi-directional, and that's kind of it. Feminine creation has so much greater capacity than what I give to you and what you give to me. You and I having this conversation, we're exchanging but transmitting codes. The code that you have and the code that I have are actually quite almost opposite. And they come together and they make a whole conversation. And
Mhm.
then you and I sit on a call on other sides of the world. You're in Europe and I'm in Australia. That's literally on the other sides of the world to each other. And we come and we transmit this conversation and we invite anyone else into this conversation to access and activate the codes that we are transmitting. So you can, in the space of listening to a conversation, if you understand how to tap into energetic signature, energetic transmission, you can listen to a podcast while you're on a walk and transform your life by activating the codes within you. That's not a male thing. That's not a transaction. That's not a currency that exists in a man-made system of here's my, like, what should we charge for this? That's ridiculous. It's infinite value. There's not enough money in the world. So it becomes free. It becomes part of the female network. How much money should you charge the world to birth a child? Because every single government makes millions off
Yes.
the passport of the registration of the birth of your child. A woman doesn't get paid. She does that out of something called love that we have reduced into free labor. But love is the currency of the world, which is why it's not on the news, which is why it's not being spoken about, which is why you don't see that in this current state of affairs that we're in. But the more that you buy into the currency of fear, the currency of panic, urgency, decimation, etc., and I'm not going to say any more words because it's only giving fuel to those things. But those are currencies.
Yeah.
And the reductive way that we've understood how this world works is on money in time exchanges, i.e. slavery, an advanced form of slavery where you
Yes.
think you have some kind of empowerment. And if you happen to be in a corporate position, or if you happen to be tailored into a particular niche that doesn't grow with you, then you are now doing it in a falsified version of you where you are not yourself. You are not the note that you are here to be. You are not your transmission of your codes and your being. So you're not being paid for being yourself. You're being paid for what you give, which has a worth on it, which is where the self-worth thing comes from, and you have an exchange for that. And so anytime you're in this slavery system of trying to understand what the value of somebody is and how to transact on that, like take note of that. You're propping up a currency outside of your natural way of
Yes.
being. And so I guess all of my questions to you today was sort of to investigate the central theme that I was
And
trying
sorry,
to
I
understand.
say something that, I just dropped in. Like you, me, the listeners, we were actually born with those codes. Like you were born with the code of receiving everything you wanted. You were born with the code of being enough, of the code of worthiness. The problem is that we receive a lot of programming.
Yes.
But that's why I love children, even if I don't have children. And I love spending time with children, observing them, because they are incredible receivers. It's like they really believe that they can receive a pink flying unicorn for their birthday. Like their imagination is limitless. Their capacity of creation is limitless. Their belief that they can receive, like, from Santa Claus, everything that they want is limitless. But then the more we grow up, the more we are told, what do you think? Who do you think you are? Life is hard. You cannot get what you want. You have to prove with you. Like I remember my parents, so I didn't eat fruit growing, like when I was a child, and yet I don't eat it. And my mom and my dad, in order for getting me to eat, they were like, if you eat this amount of things, we are gonna buy you a Barbie. So it's all. Then we get programmed with if I do what they want me to do, I'm
I
gonna
get.
receive a reward.
So why would I do it otherwise?
Yeah.
But it's interesting what you just said, right? You even said we receive the programming. So it's not that you don't know how to receive. Perhaps you're receiving in the wrong quantities. You're receiving more programming than truth. You're receiving more lies than self, And maybe it's about, first of all, I need to recalibrate the percentages of what I'm receiving and dial 1 all the way down to 0 and 1 all the way up to 100.
Yes.
Yeah, this conversation has been really interesting because it really has helped me to solidify a lot of different things. The takeaway for me, it's really at this point in time that the natural state of a woman's body to receive that which she is here to receive is innate. Like you don't need to dial around with it. You don't need to wonder. Maybe you need to wonder about what's coming in. That's probably a good exercise to start with. But that you can't receive anything, I remember, channeling from Bashar one time, and the woman said, I'm not very confident in something or other. And he said, wow, you're very confident in that. Maybe you just need to change what you're confident about.
Right.
And I think that's really coming up for here. It's like, you're really good at receiving. Maybe you just need to be really careful about what it is you are receiving.
Yes.
And for me, it's like, really understanding that currency and what you can receive and the way you can receive and from whom you can receive are infinite potentials of receivership. And if you're being too controlling about what you accept to receive or where you accept to receive it or from whom or at what time of day or whatever, and really understand what you're consuming, because every single one of those pieces of information is something you're receiving and flooding your system with, and then you're receiving those vibrational attunements into that vibrational match, and that's what's coming over and over. And I know that every time I've ever wanted to change my vibration, it really doesn't take very long. So we're not talking about years in the process here. We're talking several days, hours.
Yes. And I would say, when you ask me could be one thing, like one of the biggest quality to receive is the capability of allow yourself to be surprised.
Yeah.
Because that links exactly to what you were saying before. It's like every night when I go to bed, I say, universe, again, God, surprise me. And then every day is a surprise. Every day I can receive a miracle. Every day I can receive $50,000. Every day I can receive a book deal. Like everything is possible. I just don't have to control how, when, exactly how I want it. Like even with men, like I have clients and friends who are like, yeah, I really want a partner, but he has to be like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, and then blonde with blue eyes. And I'm like, okay, like you are not open to receive anything. You are simply like creating circumstances for which you will never receive it.
Fascinating, isn't it? Because I feel like The image that came to me at that time is like, it's like almost like you're going down supermarket aisles of like searching for a man. And then I was realizing, again, this comes back to feminine receivership, right? We used to live with the seasons of what was available in
Yes.
harvest at that time. Not and there was I don't wanna say a lack, but a seasonality to things, and you started to work with nature about what was available and had gratitude and complete excitement and enjoyment because that thing was available at this time of the year. Now we go to supermarkets and we fly fresh fruit all around the world, so you can have blueberries every single day, you can have strawberries every single day, and you get into this cadence of thinking, I can have everything I want on demand at my fingertips. And yet we have lost the taste for fresh, ripe, truly local strawberries. And so we've started to live with a lot of stuff that is of lower quality, of lower enjoyment. And it's like, we just accept
It's lower vibration.
lower vibration. And so we lower our entire field down. And that's why you can see this like global acceptance of mediocrity, of
Yes.
like, whatever, apathy, like, yeah, it's fine. But I need to have all of my conveniences and I need to just click a button. And so the cost of this currency of convenience is huge because it takes so much away of that like natural receiving. Breaking this conversation down into all of these different things that are coming to us as currencies or as costs to receiving, I think is really cause for greater consideration about what it is you are bringing into you. Amazing. Amazing. Are there any other final words to top this conversation off in terms of what you would really love listeners to really take away from this before we wrap up?
Well, I mean, there is so much gold in this conversation, and I feel we could speak for hours, because it's such a deep topic. For me, one thing I wanna say that I always tell people is like, stop believing you have blocks. That's gonna already liberate so much energy in your life and so much potential when you stop telling yourself, I have money blocks, I have receivership blocks, I have love blocks. You don't have blocks. Like blocks do not exist. Again, is a man-made construction. There are no blocks. You are simply pulling in your reality. So you are not blocking, you are calling in and attracting which of what your beliefs, ideas, emotion, vibration, feelings are match for. So instead of trying to solve the money blocks or the receiving blocks, look at your current reality, your present moment, because the present is the only truth, is the only thing that exists. The past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. So the only thing we have to work with is the now. So observe now and do a real honest observation of what am I currently attracting, experiencing right now. And from there, then we can make different choices.
So, do you think that your entire reality is just made up by every single choice that you make? Is changing your reality more difficult or more complicated than changing your choices?
Is changing your reality?
Is changing your vibration more complicated than just changing your choices?
It's both. We have to live from a state of what I call coherence. And we have to be coherent, not just in our choice, but in our energy, our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, our choices, our emotion. So that's why I always say to my client, that's why being the 1%, it's really difficult because so many people are not willing to actually do the work consistently to keep everything in coherence so that your reality shift.
Mm.
Does it make sense?
It does. I have a friend who constantly talks about coherence and yet is in deep financial issues. And there are many things about her life that are going very, very well and would be the subject and envy of many. Like, she travels the
Mm.
world and does all of these kinds of things. And she has a lot of time to go into deep, investigation of, what actually is coherence and how do you get there, and a lot of time spent on these kinds of things. And she lives this amazing, incredible life, but at the same time is plagued by, I don't know when the money's coming ever.
Ah,
And I've often wondered, can that be coherent then? I mean, her needs are provided for, but her desires and her wants are not. And I think this is a very common situation for many women. And what you're
because
talking to, maybe can talk to this example.
I can assure you, if she would have a conversation with me, I would find the crack. I would find, and that's always what happened. I would find what is the glitch, as I said, in the system. Even if she doesn't see it, there is always a glitch.
Mm.
Simply, people do not see it or do not want to see it or do not have the capability to see it. Like my biggest gift, liberate women, yes, receiving, but it's really see. I'm a psychic, a channel, a medium, and I see what you cannot see and no one has ever been able to see before.
Okay, so where can people find you to get seen?
It's like takes a I'm gonna make you a quick example and then we can, wrap up, because I think that's so important. Like I have a client who struggled a lot with their weight and with eating healthy, taking care of herself, what we were saying, like dressing, going to the gym, like all these things. And, she tried everything. Hypnosis, whatever, tapping, willpower, force, whatever. She tried everything. She had 2 conversations with me and we saw, I'm not going to share personal things, but how everything was connected with a certain trauma. We cleared that. And now she lost, I think, I don't know in pounds, but 10 kilos
10
in a,
kilos is a lot. In how long?
in a couple of months.
Oh, that's quite good still. It's not like crazy, like 1 week or anything. Yeah.
No. And without diet, without restriction, she loves to cook now for herself, healthy food. She loves to go to the gym every single day and she does it with joy.
It's the weight of that emotional trauma, right? Like it's so heavy.
It's deeper than that. I see where everything is linked and what was the source code of the glitch. When we clear the source code of the glitch of the program, everything then move. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So we didn't really work on what should you eat because I'm not the nutritionist, or why don't you go to the gym because you love yourself? No, we did something completely different. That it was like, why, like looking at the source code, why she self-abandoned herself, where it was installed, why it happened, why keep repeating. And once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. And
yeah. Especially because a lot of this stuff is hidden from us, whether our own personal memory fogs it, or it's, something that happened in a point in time that's not in this lifetime, that's not accessible, whatever it may be. It's not always. And I think the number one thing that I know from someone who used to work with clients, who used to work with friends, who has tried to work on myself, it is so much easier to see others than to see yourself. Always. It's like you can go in and be the investigator in your own self and then be like, I have no idea. I have no idea. I've done everything. I've done everything. I've looked everywhere. I've looked under the mats of every room in my house. Like it's just like it's not there. And then you have one conversation with somebody else who can see you clearly because you can't see yourself clearly. And it makes such a big difference, right? So
yeah.
All right. So tell everybody, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? How can they work with you?
A
What's the best
lot
way?
on Instagram, the Elisa Canali. Then I'm also on Facebook. Those are the 2 main platforms. Facebook, Elisa Canali. And then I just released my book, which is on Amazon. And the book is called Too Smart to Be This Tired. And it's a a guide for especially high achieving women.
And I love that because we were supposed to come on and talk about your book, but this is the conversation we had. And so it is, maybe we have to come back and have a part two to actually do the conversation we were going to talk about.
And then they can reach out via DMs and connect. I love to connect with people and chat.
And do you have a website?
Not really. No, not yet.
Okay, so contact you via Instagram or Facebook is the best way. Perfect. Thank you so much for coming today. I know that anyone listening to this would have been taking notes. This has been a really interesting conversation. I think it serves people at various different levels and tap into what you can and cannot receive. I think, really feel the energy of what's been put out because it's given with so much love and so much desire for each listener to change their life and to upgrade into just the magnificent infinite being of truth that you are. And so thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for writing your book. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for liberating women all over the world. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.